Today's story is from Susan Barthel, who recently retired from the City of Portland's Watersheds team. During her tenure, she was an advocate for protecting the Columbia Slough Watershed and remains an active volunteer in the watershed today.
My name is Susan Barthel. I live in Southeast Portland, but I worked for 23 years in the Columbia Slough Watershed and on Columbia Slough Watershed issues as a representative and employee of the City of Portland Bureau of Environmental Services. Also served on the Columbia Slough Watershed Council and served on the board for almost an equal amount of time. I was hired at a time when the City of Portland was about to start the process of evaluating the pollutants in the slough, in the water, and in the sediment. So they needed somebody who was interested in and able to work with the community, also with the scientists who were hired to do the work and the in-house scientists. I happened along at a great time. That's how I got to be a part of the Columbia Slough Watershed team.
The Columbia Slough Watershed is a heavily transformed managed floodplain, intersected by a series of levees along the Columbia River.
This was all floodplain and it was farmed. And in fact, my longtime partner's family farmed in an area that was flooded in the 1948 flood and then moved out of the district because they just didn't want to deal with that again. And I frankly didn't know anything about floodplains or risks until I started doing this work. And then it was, wow, this is fascinating. I mean, it's really complex. I mean, there's so much science and neighborhood and passion and opportunity to continue to be a resource and a place and a refuge for people.
Susan then shared about the origin of the regatta event, how it helped connect people to the slough, and why she is passionate about making it accessible.
I think it was the first year of the Watershed Council's existence. One of the members from the Canton neighborhood, David Myers-Eatwell, floated this idea that we have a regatta on the slough. It's a great name because it upends people's expectations of what a waterway might be. We decided to do it, and we were excited. There were 67 people that came, and the next year the Seattle Times did an article about how this was a regional resource, and it's grown and continues to be a really great event that gets folks who don't get the opportunity to be on the water and understand what it's like out with their families for very little or no money. And there's always that, oh, that thing over there, that steep rise of land, that's a levee. I started working in the Columbia Slough Watershed in 1993, and I would say at that time, very few people outside of the district understood that there was even a levee up here. I lived and worked through the 96 flood out here, which really wasn't that big a flood, but there were fish on Marine Drive. That was a huge eye-opener. The river can still be big, and it can be this combination of ice and then snow and then warm winds that all of a sudden you've got an intense local flood, which is what that event was. There was a profound change, both internally and externally, after Katrina. Now, a lot of what I heard before I retired 3 years ago was floods likely to happen. There will be flooding, but we're going to defend against it. And, you know, the potential is always there.
Thanks for listening to a part of Susan's story. To find out more about the Portland Metropolitan Levee System, please visit www.mcdd.org/Life Along the Columbia.